Nation, it is time for Say What? Yesterday, NBA draft attendees were interviewed, and of course, all eyes were on Zion. Say what?
I know you.
What does it feel like to be the best prospect since LeBron James?
It feels like being RJ Barrett.
Oh my God.
There you go.
That's watching those two guys the next, 10, 15 years, however long it's going to be, is going to be very, very cool. They're not going to be teammates like we thought maybe they could have been in New York, potentially New Orleans trading over. That's really cool.
The NBA is in great hands, not only as far as what we've seen this postseason, the future of the NBA, those two, Ja, and as we always know, there's going to be some middle rounders, Kawhi Leonards and stuff like that. So looking forward to tonight's draft.
Yeah, and on tonight's draft, on that point, the Raptors didn't have a single lottery pick on their roster, and they just won the title. The highest pick was Kawhi Leonard. Everyone was taking 15 or later, so it's not just the can't-miss guys in the lottery, even though everyone's going to be watching #1 from Duke.
Absolutely, and back to tonight's draft, and this may obviously not come as a huge shock. We keep talking about it. Zion Williamson expected to go #1 overall to the Pelicans, and after an incredible freshman campaign at Duke, Zion is the most hyped prospect since LeBron James, but all that hype doesn't get to him.
I don't really see it as pressure. I'm doing what I love to do, and that's play basketball. And I don't try to live up to nobody's expectations. They can set them there, but I don't try to live up to them. I just be me. Try to be the best version of myself I can be.
Not only what he does on the court, you love listening to this young man talk. But, Cece, what are fair expectations for Zion?
Well, the thing about it, right now, he's the favorite to be Rookie of the Year. I just believe that typically when we see a talent like this, when you start drawing the comparisons in, RJ Barrett, he's a great talent himself. He asked Zion a question at the press conference, what's it like? And so you have your peers that are comparing you to some of the greatest ever. But sometimes we get the talent, expectations, and we get the output end up being the same. I think Zion is in great hands because all those around him have said so many things about his overall work ethic, his ability to willingly to play defense. He is a sponge for basketball. And with a name like Zion, it sounds like a star, but he's got rare skills. His ability to not only leap, but his second bounce. Because there's a lot of guys that have a 40-inch vertical, but his second and third bounce, how quick he gets off the ground, how an effective rebounder he is, offensive rebounder. He can be effective without running any type of plays because of his ability to be able to go get a shot or to get out in transition. I think he's going to be a special player. But David Griffin being there in New Orleans, I believe that helps out his growth. The trade for legitimate NBA starters. So he's not trying to carry. Right now on paper, he's probably the 4th best scorer that they have. And that's where you want him to be. He's going to work on his weaknesses to make them a strength. With the coach there with Gentry, you point out the way that he likes to play, getting up and down is going to really help his overall development. I believe that he even reaches those expectations, even though they're extremely high to unrealistic.
I cannot wait to watch this kid play in the NBA because we've been watching him since high school. Since this show started, we were playing these highlights from this kid out of South Carolina who somehow wasn't even the top recruit in his own class. He was a junior in high school, putting on a show, in-game dunks, the likes of which we have never seen. Here's a similarity between he and LeBron that I don't think is unfair. Much like LeBron, he will improve, but if he does not improve 1% his rookie year, he can still be an above-average NBA player. Yeah. He is right. When people were saying last year, Zion Williamson is one of the 50 best players in the world already, that was not hyperbole. Now, it's the fringe. Like, is he top 50, top 60 for sure? Like, absolutely. Because what he has, what he's good at, you cannot teach. You can't teach the first jump or the second jump. You cannot teach the body. You cannot teach the athleticism. You cannot teach the defensive instincts, which I think were underrated at Duke. Everyone remembers when he blocked that 3 in the corner. It wasn't just that he could get there. It's that he knew to get there. It's that he knew he could get there and then went and got there. It is, does he need to develop a more reliable jump shot? Of course. So does everyone that comes into the league that isn't coming into the league as a shooter. All of the high flyers almost all of them need a more reliable jump shot. But the other reason I'm so excited for this player is, and this is just an aesthetic quality. This is why I love the NBA, is because people like this exist. Is because, why is LeBron my favorite player of all time? Because of the superhuman element to how he plays basketball. I respect the three-point shooting. I respect the analytics. I understand how effective it is. But I watch for that. I watch for things that only 7 people in human history can do, and he's one of them. And that's what's so exciting about it, is to see him grow, see him in a system where now I think Gentry's the perfect coach for him, and I think David Griffin is a great GM that we're going to trust his talents to. So no, the expectations aren't too high. What are the expectations? 20-10 as a rookie and unanimous rookie of the year, and I think he can live up to those expectations.
Let's just take a best case scenario, worst case scenario. And it's really hard because typically, when guys are transitioning from either high school to college, I try to pick out a college player that they look like. It's a lot easier to do. But when you get into the special category, because there is no player in the NBA that is Zion Williamson. Now, I can take a couple players and try to blend them together so you might get a look. So let's just take best case scenario, Blake Griffin. If he turns out to be a player like Blake Griffin from an offensive standpoint, he's going to be a perennial all-star. Let's go Draymond Green, because Draymond Green, Julius Randle, they're around the same size. At his worst, he's already going to be a Julius Randle. At his best,
more athleticism.
At his best, he's going to be a Draymond Green on the defensive end and the capability of being a better offensive player. Ben Simmons. At his worst, he can do what Ben Simmons is doing right now. So the expectations, I believe they are very, very reachable with Zion and his willingness to be a defender. That doesn't come with talent. It doesn't come with younger players. It comes with a seasoned veteran who's trying to find his way. A guy like James Harden, I'm forced to play defense. When you have that in a young person, that's a great quality.
Since LeBron came into the league, there have been 3, to me, can't miss guys. Anthony Davis went #1. Luka, who should have, and that's not recency bias. We've been on this for a few years. And this kid right here, if we remove the injury component, his worst case scenario is a guy that has a career average of 17 or 18 points per game and makes a couple all-star games. His best case scenario is a guy who is a perennial MVP contender, a guy who is the best player on a championship team, and a guy who instantly becomes the most dynamic and explosive athlete in the NBA. That's his best case scenario. He will probably fall somewhere in between, but if I had to pick between one of those two, I would bet on the best case over the worst case every day of the week.
Going to be fun to watch. All right, let's finish with the Lakers, who are favorites to win the 2020 NBA title. But while Vegas might think LeBron, AD and company will get it done, rival executives are a bit more weary. According to reports, many of them have their doubts that the Lakers will be able to build a title team after giving up Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and a ton of draft picks. CC, what is the biggest factor that will determine the Lakers' success?
Well, I think the front office and their ability to be able to get those type of players that fit into that roster, that fill out who's going to be the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th best player. When we get into an NBA playoff race, you guys know it's going to be 8 or 9 guys playing. The rest of those guys on the end of the bench, they're only there in case you get some type of injury. So I believe that Rob Pelinka and his ability to be able to get guys, convince players, you know something, you should take less. We're going to be special over this window of 2 to 4 years. You can take less, come to Los Angeles. We can really put you in a position where you only do the things that you do well. But I think that what's missing in this, and I believe the key component, their ability to keep Kyle Kuzma. And what Kuz can do as a scorer. Kuz has had some unbelievable quarters. I'm talking about he goes off. And I believe that his shooting will only get better with the space that he's going to get on the court. But can he be that reliable third scorer for the Lakers? Because we see when we get into the playoffs, man, you start looking at averages. Does a team have a guy that can get them 18 to 20 points outside of their 2 stars? And if they get that with Kuz, how much help do they need? Opposite of LeBron. So I believe that Kyle Kuzma, his overall development, he's been one of my favorite players with the Lakers of the young players, and I'm glad they were able to keep him. He's only going to get better. And last year, man, he showed us flashes. Didn't finish the season the way you want to, but now without all those distractions and him kind of winning the lottery ticket of being the only young player that they kept, that responsibility and playing for a championship, I believe he responds to that, Nick.
In 2019-2020, the NBA is very different than what it's been over the last 5 years because the Warriors, at least temporarily, even if KD resigns and Clay resigns, the Warriors, at least for a year, are not the overwhelming favorite juggernaut that they've been. So just LeBron and Anthony Davis get you to the table of title contention. Just them, because they will be an offense unto themselves. I would bet any amount of money, no matter how the Lakers fill out the roster, those two guys, as long as they both play 70-plus games, Lakers will have a top 5 offense. It's impossible for them not to. And Anthony Davis, by himself, should make you a decent defense if you fill out the rest of the roster. And if you fill out the rest of the roster the right way, you'll be a very good defense. My trepidation about the Lakers, and the reason why, if Masai Ujiri was the GM, I would really consider, even if Kyrie came and said, I want to come play for you, turning him down and picking 4 players at the money. Because I trust Masai Ujiri to pick the right guys. And I know that pick the guys that, at least in my head, are the right guys. You get Darren Collison $9 million. You even get Patrick Beverly for 8, Seth Curry for 4. You call up Kyle Korver, who I think is about to get bought out in Memphis, who's part of that Conley trade. You get him for the veterans minimum. You call up Rudy Gay, see if he wants to take a David West deal. There's 5 players that, because I cannot give Rob Pelinka that faith, I think their best path is to try to get Kyrie, to try to get Kemba even, certainly Kawhi, because then you don't have to rely on a skill set that maybe Pelinka has, but I've never seen it, which is filling out the roster around specific skill sets of your stars. He was an agent, not a guy that's worked in front offices. He's had to deal with contracts, but only from that side of the table, not the other side of the table. And so if they don't get the star, the job gets very hard because you are, all right, Malcolm Brogdon's a great fit, but he's restricted. If we give him an offer sheet and Milwaukee, even if they don't want to match it, they can wait 3 days. Who could come off the table? What's the opportunity cost there? This is where...
And that's fair.
And this is where GMs make their money. This is why guys work their whole career typically to try to get a shot at being a GM because they're learning those things. That's the concern for the Lakers, because if they get this part right, they don't just stay the favorites. They can become, over the next 20 days, the overwhelming favorites if they do the rest of this the right way.
And Masai, a guy like him, at the trade deadline, he trades for Gasol with that contract he has, breaks up that great bench he has. They're like, wow, they had a strength as far as their bench. Now will that be a strength in the playoff? Fired the coach from last season. Saw that Nick Nurse was more than a capable NBA coach to be able to make that next step. So that's a great comparison you make with what Toronto did.
How much dialogue does there need to be between Pelinka and LeBron, or even Anthony Davis, about their preferences of players?
Listen, LeBron's got to be involved.
Yep.
Man, Shaq sat here, he told me, man, years ago, man, the kid's a basketball savant. All this stuff, I'm not involved, all that. Rich Paul, man, y'all need to swallow that mess. Man, this guy, if he is a basketball genius, we need him in there talking. What kind of players are out there? This is our philosophy. This is what the coaches want. This is our expectations of you.
And recruiting. Not just on the Pelinka side of things, but on calling Kyle Korver that when he sees the trades done, if you get bought out, do you want to come here? Because the other part of
Smith,
this,
what he doing?
JR, I'd love to see that reunion. Because the other part of this, just very quickly here, David Griffin was able to, in Cleveland, during the season, make adjustments by trading away future picks. The Lakers don't have that benefit. They're not going to be able to make mid-season adjustments. They have to get it right this offseason. That starts in about 8 days.
All right, that'll be it for us. We're back tomorrow morning at 6:30. Undisputed starts right now.